Hey everyone, welcome to Good Evening Eorzea, your fortnightly Final Fantasy XIV podcast. Today, it's a little bit of a short show. There hasn't really been much news come out for Final Fantasy XIV over the last couple of weeks since the last episode. Have been a couple of interviews that have just recently came out, so it's at least gave us a little bit to talk about, especially as the show's been delayed. So thankfully the delays allowed us to actually have some content to talk to you about. And in order for me to not be completely bored and just talk to myself for 45 minutes, I do need an extra guest. So, as always, it is Mr. Marfy. How are you?
Hello, and hello everybody. Yeah, I'm okay. I'm just, I don't know how less bored you'll be talking to me.
It'll be less bored than if I'm just sitting here 45 minutes talking to myself about 2 interviews.
But you've always got your cat with you, haven't you?
I have. Harry is currently playing with my old headset. Just the wires are dangling down below my desk, so he's currently pawing at them. So if you do hear the occasional knock, it is just him.
Bless him. Cats.
Yeah.
Well, everybody knows cats are arseholes.
They're not. They're just inquisitive.
So you're too nice. I've got 2, and they are definitely.
Well, no, he's all right. He's going to be lovely company during Shadowbringer. It's just he's taken to during the day to when I'm lying on the settee with my blanket over me, crawling underneath the blanket and then snuggling into my legs underneath the blanket.
You sound like an old man.
Yeah, definitely. so that's going to be lovely when I've got Shadowbringers on the go. Him just snuggling and purring underneath us.
Oh, bless. My cat's just... One of them will be out doing something. They caught a robin this morning by the looks of things.
Ooh.
So there's feathers all over my garden. Colourful ones as well. But one of them will just be out doing God knows what. And the other one you might hear through my mic later on meowing at me saying, feed me. Because he's a greedy little so-and-so.
Yeah, Harry's quite greedy. Harry has about 4 pouches of cat food a day.
Bloody hell.
Yeah.
Leah's a big boy.
He is. So, like we say, not really that much to talk about, hence the fact that we've just talked about cats for a couple of minutes. As always, the expansion's coming up. The expansion, June 28th for early access, July the 2nd for standard release. It is in a little bit of a lull period. I would imagine some news will start coming out next weekend. The reason for this is that the media tour hits London on the 15th to the 18th of May. I know that there are people going. I know that Square Enix are being really nice and flying Ethos in from Australia, even though they couldn't fly me or you down from Sunderland or the... Where do you live? Canterbury.
Close enough. Kent.
Get you from Kent. But obviously we are just starting, so it would have been nice. But
I'd drive up there. It only takes like an hour.
Yeah, I'd drive down and actually pay for... Well, I wouldn't pay for my own lodgings. I'd stay with my uncle if it just meant for me to go. So they wouldn't even have to pay anything.
Yeah, please send us quick invites.
But, no. So things will start coming out then. The embargo will be on as well. I'm not too sure how long the embargo will be on for, because the following weekend, May the 24th, is Live Letter 51, which is going to be detailing a lot of the job changes that are coming about.
Can't wait.
And our next episode is going to be delayed up until then. So we're going to wait until the Live Letter's been done. And then we're actually going to do the next episode of Good Evening Eorzea from there.
It just makes sense, doesn't it? Instead of just rambling, I mean, we're scraping the barrel at the minute anyway. I mean, just for these interviews and stuff, and it's just a combination of one, work, and not having enough time to actually do these things. And just like you said, there's that lull period. It's like the perfect time for everybody to start leveling up their classes that they want to.
Yeah, and we've talked about this before, so I've managed to level my Black Mage, I've started leveling my Dark Knight. I know you've started leveling a White Mage for reasons unknown. But
just because, no, the truth of that is because I got my Summoner to 70 and got Scholar because of that reason. Yeah. And I really don't get on with Scholar. I just don't like it. But I do want to have... It's not like I want to main heal or anything, but it's nice to say, like with the FC and whatever, if they need a heal and everyone's leveling different stuff up, it's like, okay, well, I can jump in.
You should have went and got Astro, just then at least you're already at level 30.
Yeah, but at the same time, there's only so many spires that I could get before I.
Well, the spires are going to be redundant soon, or at least they're going to be changed to being something different.
It's not something actually that people want.
You never know. There's the occasional time spire is useful to spread everything else into AoEs.
Well, yes.
Yeah, and we've been doing little bits of Eureka in terms of, so like I've been just getting some extra Pyros stuff. Just Pyros has been nerfed into the ground. We went in there yesterday. I went in there with a near enough. I had one crystal and near enough a full bar. By the time I came out, which was an hour later,
yeah,
I had 4 crystals and half a bar.
Yeah, I'm still trying to work all that stuff out.
Yeah, but you've we kind of had that chat yesterday in the fact that like we're not gonna. You realise that like time isn't your friend, but you're still gonna be able to do it, especially as I'm expecting either the 21st or the 28th of May to bring nerfs to both Pyros and Pyros and Hydatos as well.
The thing is that when I originally when I first restarted Final Fantasy, which a good few months ago now, but it was already. I think I started just as Pyros came out.
No, you've been doing it since.
It's got to be close to that because I remember you talking about it, and then there was me thinking, well, to be fair, I wasn't going to bother doing the whole of Eureka, but then I decided, you know what, I've probably got enough time because certain things in like my actual life changed a little bit. I had a little bit more free time. So I went in there. Then I got sidetracked with leveling other classes and also doing my gatherers. And then I've got to the point now it's like, is it actually going to be beneficial for me to do this? Because as soon as Shadowbringer comes out, then that gear is going to be redundant very quickly.
You started back on Final Fantasy 14 in October.
Right, okay. Cool, that feels like ages now.
Yeah.
But it's just got to the point now where I'll go into Eureka, cap my Times of Genesis, and if it means that I can get some, like, level up my gear and the weapon specifically, then I will. But
which is what we talked about. We said that at least it's a unique way of being able to level up, of at least being able to cap your tombstones of Genesis.
Yeah.
Just one of the things that I did a video on was we were talking about how best to prepare for Shadowbringers.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I did say was to cap all your tomes, including your Genesis and Poetics, ready for Shadowbringers.
Yeah, because you're going to get the conversions and all the other stuff's going to go to Poetics that was like Genesis and Mendacity, and so it's just worth doing just so you've got a bit of a head start, especially with the if you're going to be leveling up the 2 new jobs.
Exactly. Especially, so I've already went and got a set of level 60 tank gear and a set of level 60 dancer gear ready for those 2 jobs. But obviously the other side of it will be the level 70 gear, because if you get a set of level 70 400 gear, that's probably going to last you until around about level 75 or so. So it's going to, if you've got gear that can keep you going for a prolonged period of time, it's definitely going to help in the expansion. It's one of the reasons I'm also spending a lot of time in Hydatos, or trying to spend time in Hydatos, upgrading all the armor to 390 left side, because then I can use the Poetics and the Genesis I get to get 390 or 400 right side to make it much easier to basically not have to worry about getting that much gear.
Just something to do.
It is, and you, like we say, it's going to be nerfed again in Pyros, in Hydatos, in terms of, I'd imagine the amount of light we get in Pyros is going to be increase the amount of light you can get from dragon farming and from the moth farming.
Have they changed the like the levels for the aetherite? Because they did with Pagos, didn't
they're
they?
already quite low.
Ah, okay.
They're already quite low. Plus, the other side of that coin is Hydatos is much easier to move about in.
I reckon one of the good things, if they just wanted to help things along, is just give us a mount straight away.
that could be one thing, but no, in Pyros the aetherites are quite low anyway. I think the highest one's only about level 44.
Right. Okay.
And there's not as much verticality or as much blockading in terms of
no dragons.
In terms of the map. There's still dragons.
Oh, goddamn dragons.
But it's much more forgiving when it comes to sort of like moving about, I feel.
Right, okie dokie. Well, if I ever get there.
Well, you've got the Logos actions as well.
Oh, those yeah.
So
you help me out there.
Yeah, you've got Logos actions to make you go stealth. So you gain basically the hidden skill from Ninja, except you still move at a decent speed, so nothing can see you, but you can still move.
So it's not like the Gathering stealth where you walk at like near snail's pace.
No, it's not. You still move at a decent speed. You've got things like a self-raise, so if you do die, then one of the things that can happen is you've got a 70% chance of you just being auto-raised. You've got things like increase, which is basically a double speed sprint.
Okay.
So you can sprint and then use increase to do another 10 seconds at double speed. So
nice.
There are things in Pyros that just help you get about.
Yeah, well, that's good to know. Cause...
being able to bind things, put things to sleep that you don't naturally have those skills.
Yeah.
It's much easier to move about because of those things.
Right, okie dokie. Imagine if they started doing that with like some content, like actual content.
I don't think they would put into actual content.
No, I know, but I could just like, because obviously you've got the raid actions and stuff like that, or instance actions. Just that'd be quite weird.
It would be, but then again, the Logos actions were actually meant to be in place, I believe, for Animos or Pyros. I can't remember Pagos even. I can't remember which one. It's more likely Pagos, but when you look at the map and when you look at the Logos actions that are available in Pyros, you can see that the map was probably designed with some of these skills in mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, enough about Eureka. Just I feel like we've talked about Eureka considerably previously, and I'll be doing a video on Eureka quite soon. I'm in the middle of... I've got 3 scripts wrote. I'm on my raid script, I've got my jog script, and then I've got my extra stuff script. So, I'm 50% of the way there, and then it's just getting footage.
Yep.
Which we've already started, really. And,
yeah, we've got which
Yeah. So, 2 interviews came out, one yesterday, one today. One with Game Escape, which is an interview, which is a place we've covered interviews with before, and me and you both, we originally didn't see this interview. We saw this interview on YouTube with Mioni, and we both had the same opinion and same thought, where I'm sure that I've covered this weeks ago and they've just gotten around to it, but no, it is a new interview.
Yeah, we both said, because it was like the interview was about something that's already happened, being the world visit system, but the interview took place before it was live, or that's what I came to understand. So it was a bit outdated in itself.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I wasn't going to do a video on these interviews. Just the first one was the Gamescape interviews did seem to be just not really that much.
It's nonsensical, is it? Really, it's just a bit like meh.
It's so the first question is, the trailer for Shadowbringers is quite different from expansions before it. Seems like the one where Urianger and Yasholta are speaking while the area burns around them seem like they could be from part of the main scenario quests. Might we expect to see CG cutscenes during Shadowbringers? And the interview was with Naoki Yoshida, or Yoshi P as he's more commonly known, and his response was, unfortunately the answer is no. Of course, the higher the quality of the pre-rendered CG, the more it is exciting to everyone, but Final Fantasy XIV takes greater care in the player's experience. Thus, because we tweak visuals and dialogue up until the last possible moment, a pre-rendered video, which requires a long production lead time, will not allow us to make those adjustments. That being said, a few of the scenes within the Shadowbringers trailer faithfully depict a portion of the path that our Warrior of Light is presumed to travel along. I encourage everyone to confirm what the scenes in trailer mean through the main scenario of Shadowbringers. So, obviously, this was all about the big cutscenes that we do get in the expansions, in the patches, that are often in just normal Final Fantasy XIV graphics, and whether or not they would or have changed them to be more CG, to be more professionally, not professionally, just that sounds as though the other ones aren't professional, but just look different in cutscenes.
we had this with the Stormblood trailer, didn't we, where you see Lise and Warrior of Light fighting
yeah,
on the hand, and then you get that close up where it looks like they're going to smooch almost while punching each other in the face. But you had that sort of thing in game, just obviously not in that kind of render.
Well, they don't even show you it in game, so that scene, spoilers for people who haven't played through Stormblood yet, you really should. The scene takes place, I believe, right towards the end of the expansion, so it's after you've dealt with everything in Othard, you go back and Lise gets rid of her short tank top and sleeveless jacket and puts on her red dress.
Her dancer dress.
Yeah, her dancer dress, pretty much. Which is where everyone thought Dancer was coming in the last expansion. She puts on a dancer dress. I believe the quest is called Lady in Red. And then they go and they talk, and the Warrior of Light and Lise have a bit dialogue, and they go and agree to have a sparring session on the palm at the Temple of the Fist.
I'm quite sure you do see that bit.
Don't?
No, I mean, not the actual fight, the bit where they're face to face. That is referenced in a cutscene.
It might just be towards the end of that quest line. Just, I know you don't actually... You come
don't
back,
go up there.
Yeah, you come back and it's alluded to that basically the fight in the trailer has just happened.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, because I know there's an achievement for it, isn't there?
Yeah. So in terms of it, I think part of the cutscenes that will come out in Shadowbringers will be... It'll kind of be similar in that we'll see the Vakhtita Greatwood burn, we'll see the forest on fire, we will see Urianger, Ishtola, the Warrior of Light, all those people helping to defend it, but we'll probably not see the exact shot-for-shot remake of what's going on in the trailer.
No, not at all. I still want to know what's happened to Alpha Mode and LSA.
Yeah, I'm sure they're going to turn up.
Oh, they do. They always turn up.
Yeah. I've got a theory about what's going to happen to them, but I don't want to say it at the moment.
I don't know. It could be good if it comes true, buddy. But leave it for another one.
Yeah. They then went on to talk about why we're going to the first in Shadowbringers instead of exploring other realms in the source. So there are areas on the source like Sharlayan or the New World that we haven't visited. How did you decide to travel to the first in Shadowbringers instead of exploring more of the source? So Yoshi P's answer was, in order for us to dive into Final Fantasy XIV's core, there are certain themes we cannot forget. These have been present ever since the original Final Fantasy XIV. What are the goals and intentions of the mysterious Ascians? What was the cause for Hydaelyn to be split into 14 different worlds so long ago? These are questions that we cannot forget as we delve into the centre of the story. Of course, there's unexplored areas like Sharlayan and the New World, but I feel we need to tackle these fundamental points before journeying to these locations. The answer to the questions I posed will be revealed through the Shadowbringers main scenario, and it is here we will really start to see the foundation of Final Fantasy XIV's story.
Yeah, so one thing, does it say, is it that interview that says like the split was like 10,000 years ago?
I believe, yes, it is.
Yeah, it is. I thought that was quite cool.
Yeah, they do, in the next question, they do talk about sort of like the split. And basically, as far as I can see, this question is them turning around and going, these are this is the main story. This is the main plot through point from 1.0 to 2.0 to 3.0 to 4.0 and now to 5.0. And we're now at 5.0, and this is kind of going to be the final point of this plot, and then we can start moving on to other ones.
Yeah. This is the uncovering the bits we've been searching for and going forward from there.
Yeah, just you've got to think back all the way. I mean, I never played 1.0, but 2.0, it was massive Ascian involvement. 3.0, 4.0, both of them had massive Ascian involvement. Heidelin and Zodiac have been a background factor and one of these things that's always lurking and always gets brought up at certain times.
Mm-hmm.
So they are sticking to core themes. And I think what will happen will be once this has kind of ended, we may look at maybe a standalone expansion. And when I say standalone, I don't mean it's going to be something that you don't really need or anything. It is going to be what is going to be 6.0. However, it's not going to be something where we've had 4, 6, 8 years worth of build-up. It might be something that's going to be like a one-and-done expansion in terms of we go to the New World or we go to Charlatan or we go somewhere where it is just going to be one and done inside that expansion.
You can never tell, can you? But yeah, I can see where you're coming from.
I don't feel going to the New World will allow us to have a one and done expansion.
Every time I hear New World, I just think of Monster Hunter, because that's what that is.
You can tell I've been to the pictures quite a lot over the last couple of weeks, seeing Avengers Endgame twice, because one of the trailers is for Aladdin. Every time I've been hearing when I've been reading through these and I've heard New World, my mind immediately goes to a whole new world and the singing.
I'm not gonna. I was tempted just to break out into song then.
that Aladdin trailer is definitely weird. It's definitely strange seeing Will Prince basically jet ski on ostriches.
Yeah, or just him as Genie.
He doesn't make a bad Genie when he's not blue.
Yeah, I mean, from what I could tell, it's only like he's only blue like when he's just come out of the lamp.
Yeah, he does become more of a normal person.
Yeah, he does look like himself, just with a turban and other things on. But
bald.
Strangely enough, right now, I'm not a massive Disney fan apart from the obvious choices, but I kind of want to see Aladdin.
I do, if only to see how bad it is.
I suppose in a sense that is. I don't know why. Just like out of all the Disney films that I remember, like growing up as a kid and stuff, that and The Lion King stick out the most. I mean, Lion King was like the first film that ever made me cry. Bear in mind, I was little.
Yeah, I obviously they're doing a remake of Lion King. I really don't know if I want to see it. Just I really don't know if I want sort of like my childhood spoiled.
Yeah, see, this is the thing when it comes to the more outrageous with talking animals and stuff. I mean, the Jungle Book was pretty good when they redone that. I haven't seen Andy Serkis's Mowgli, which is on Netflix.
It's meant to be a lot different,
but it does look good.
The Andy Serkis's one is meant to be a lot different compared to the actual Disney and the King of the Swingers Jungle Book.
Yeah, it does seem that way. I might give it a watch. Not that this is the film review podcast. I do apologise. We've gone on a bit of a tangent.
Yeah. Just as a point, though, just when you're talking about the Jungle Book, I was somewhere on Tuesday, and one of the songs that was played as people was leaving was "I'm the King of the Swingers" by King Louis.
It's a good song.
It's a surreal choice for where I heard it.
Right. Okay.
But back to Final Fantasy XIV.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
The Gamescape interview then talks about the differences between the first and the source. So the areas of the first appear to be derived from areas on the source, and we've seen that kind of in the trailer. So you've got Lakeland looking a lot like Mordona. You've got Yulmore.
Yep.
Yulmore looking a lot like Limsa. The Vaktika Greatwood is obviously the Great Shroud. You've got Amareng, that's very Uldarian-like. And I can't remember the name of the... you've got Ilmeg.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know what Ilmeg looks like.
No,
Candy Crush on steroids.
I'm not sure if that's supposed to be a bit like Corythus without the snow. It looks very mountainous.
There's another one that's Ilmeg's the
that's the fair. I'm thinking of the other one.
Yeah, I can't remember what the other one's called. It is wrote down on the Final Fantasy XIV website. It's where the dwarfs are.
Mm-hmm.
That looks very Corythus-like.
Yeah, that's the one I was thinking of.
Yeah. So how did the creation process for these new maps work? Was there terrain or other assets brought in from the existing area on the source? So the response was the first, where the Shadowbringer story will take place, does indeed show similarities to areas on the source. This is due to the splitting of Hydaelyn into 14 shards over 10,000 years ago. Each of these separate worlds went down their own path with their own history, and naturally their history and evolution would divulge from this point, and so we did not repurpose any existing assets. So, apart from the fact that the Crystarium looks a lot like 1.0's original hub city, they haven't used any existing assets. Development team considered the evolution and history of the first and create this world from the ground up. While it might appear to have similarities, I'm confident players will always have the feeling that nothing is quite exactly the same. The only commonality would be the people. The visual appearance of each race on the first and the source may be the same, but their philosophies and heritage are quite different. I think elements such as these are one of the real joys of exploring the first. So, like we say, and we've said previously in other videos and other podcasts, Hydaelyn split into the 14 shards. The source is one where we are, and the first is another one where we are going. Some of the other ones, like the World of Darkness, which is a source shard devoid of light, we've travelled to in Crystal Tower.
Was that the third?
13th.
13th, right. Okay.
Yeah, that's the 13th shard. So, basically, they all were at the same point 10,000 years ago, and since then they've all went on a different path. So they will have evolved in similar ways, they will have evolved in completely different ways, which is why we're seeing things like Lalafels being dwarves, Elzen being elves, Hrothgar being Ronzo.
And the fact that they say that the dwarves, Lalafell, are a beast tribe rather than a main race.
Yeah. That's a one. They're not going to be seen as kind of sort of like the same.
No, I mean we just get privileged because we get to go in their houses and everyone else doesn't.
Yes, we do because we're Lalafels.
Yeah.
I like the fact that there's no reused assets.
Yep, I think that was that could have been a very, very easy choice for them to have done, and they haven't. So I applaud them for that.
Yeah. The fact that there's no reused assets. Obviously the visual appearance of each race being the same, I don't blame them for that, because that would have been a nightmare having to redesign all of the races. And plus, knowing our community, they would have turned around and immediately wanted those character models available to them to play.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like the Fat Cat model right now.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'd love that. I'd love the Fat Cat model with the guy who came up with the idea for the red mage with a baguette and a glass of wine, which I think would be amazing. But it is going to be interesting seeing how the world has developed differently to ours. There's going to be big differences. There's going to be a lot of small differences as well. And I, for one, will freely admit I'm probably not going to be somebody that notices a lot of the minute details. But it's probably going to be one of the only times when I'm going to be listening to some of the other lore podcasts, so things like State of the Realm, where they delve into the lore a lot more, because it's going to have those tiny tidbits of information where you might not have noticed them. I
also think this will bring a lot of people into wanting to know the lore a bit more that aren't that interested.
Yes. One of the things I never really did in Stormblood, I did in Heavensward because it was more of a case of I joined Heavensward late, so I used them to catch up in certain parts. But I didn't really do a lot of the side story quests.
Yeah.
Or those that I did do, I didn't really pay
much attention
to the actual story behind them.
There's more in-depth stuff in those, not in all of them, but in some of them that you wouldn't think about really that they put in.
Well, one of the main plot points in the later patches of Stormblood has been this Black Rose.
Yeah.
The weapon. There's a side story quest arc at level 61 back in not Castrum Fulminus, that's where you fight Tsukiyomi. The first place where you go into
Castromorians.
Alamigo.
Castromorians.
That one.
Yeah.
There's a level 60 quest arc that has you find out a black rose.
Right, okie dokie.
So you go and you speak to this person, and then you find out what you think is an escaped prisoner.
Oh yeah, I've done that one.
Yeah, and it turns out he's not, and he's actually the doctor that created Black Rose and was used as a memory wiping agent. So you can't remember what he did. But it's amazing how they put that little side story in, and then Black Rose has become such a prominent feature towards the later parts of the expansion.
It makes me wonder if they, like they do for like the main story quest, you've got like a different marker above your head. It's like the spiky one.
The meteor,
if it's like a lore-based thing, whether it should have like a different colour, just to let people know. Because if somebody's not that, I know they want people to do all the extra content, but. I don't know. Maybe that might be an idea.
They already do a second one in terms of the icons, because they've got the one with the plus icon.
Yeah, but I think that just means that you're going to get something for it.
Yeah, it does. Which this one does start with. It does start with a plus icon. So it does start with something.
Oh, right. Okay. I can't remember.
But I think I'm definitely going to be interested in doing a lot more of the side quests, because it'll learn me more about the actual world. Yeah.
It's that whole thing of like comparing them to see what differences happened. You've already got that thing with Silvertier,
yes,
haven't you? And Lakeland,
yeah. And just the Moldor and the Crystal Tower. The fact that the Crystal Tower has appeared, it wasn't something that was there originally. It's something that has developed over time. So I think things like that, you're going to find out more about the Crystal Tower just for the main scenario quest, but I think some of the other little things in and around the Crystal Tower, so like Silvertier Lake, will be a big part of it. The Great Shroud, there will be these areas where we are getting new lore behind them of existing areas.
Yeah. It's just the extra little details, isn't it? The side quests.
We then have, I don't even know where this question came from, I'll be perfectly honest. There's a term in the community, or at least on State of the Realm, of a Peaches question, which is a question where, like, does it really matter? And it was literally somebody asked at a Q&A session of Yoshida, it's like, when can we get Peaches in the game? So during the patch 4.5 trailer, the Warrior of Light had some stubble on his chin. Many players have been asking if this is something that can be added into the game. Are you considering adding it and or other new character customization options for the existing races? And Yoshi P's response was, I see. Honestly, I wasn't even aware of this, and then laughs. In our trailers, we depict the Warrior of Light as a sort of symbol to represent the Warriors of Light around the world. If he has stubble, it's only natural that everyone else could grow some too. I will definitely keep this in mind. Whether or not they do it is another matter.
That question's been ever since the start. When we're going to get more facial hair options? And he's always made that joke about it, hasn't he? So
yeah, and he does always sort of like talk about additional character customization options, but I think I would much prefer him to spend more time on the actual game content rather than on character customization. But that is just me.
All I can say is that as a Lalafell, you've got more options now because we can get the fake beards.
Yes, we will be able to get the fake beards with the big stripes.
Yeah, so every other race.
I don't know what everyone's going on about. I've got a Lalafell, he's got a moustache and a goatee.
Yeah, but it's those. Yeah, well, I'm not even going to go into them. Or what your character looks like.
My character looks a lot better than what he did as a Makote.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
My Makote looked special.
My character's been everything.
I'm going to miss the next question for now, and I'm going to go down to the last question because these two questions, I think they've just been put in the wrong order. Sultan has done some great work with what we've seen of Shadowbringer so far. Previous expansions had theme songs performed by Susan Calloway. What we've heard in the trailer so far seems a bit different than that. Can you tell us if what we've heard is the theme song for Shadowbringers, or is the theme song something we've yet to hear? So the answer was Masayoshi Sultan took charge of creating the main theme for Shadowbringers. The Warriors of Light adventure transcends the interdimensional rift and takes players to the first, but up until this point we have always journeyed within the source. Our overall concept for the main theme had been the singing voice of Mother Heidelin, but this time is different. This story is not about the adventures of the Warrior of Light, but the Warrior of Darkness. The music that plays in the trailer is indeed the Shadowbringers theme song. However, there's one more theme song that will complement the song in the trailer. You will be able to hear it for yourself in-game.
So is this going to be Zodiac singing?
It could well be a male voice. It could well be a male voice. Or what I'm more thinking is that it's going to be a remix of the theme song at the end of 5.0, where we've restored some light to, or we've pushed back that flood of light to the point where the voice of Mother Heidelin is audible again. Right, yeah.
See, I think that's such a really cool concept. It's like how much you can actually tell a story just with the theme songs of it. I just really like that.
Yeah, and I never really considered the fact that the other theme songs, the voice is Heidelin. I never considered that.
But then, as soon as you hear that and you think back, you're like, oh yeah, actually,
that makes perfect sense. And then if we have this song as us being the Warrior of Darkness, and it being a lot more broody and doesn't have this soulful melody and voice behind it, if they then change that to being a remixed version where you do have either the soulful voice of Susan Calloway, who does an amazing job on the theme songs, where you get to hear Mother Heidelin again, or if they do change it up and put a male voice or another female voice that's a little bit deeper and a little bit, I don't want to say gruffer, but a different tone and a different pitch as the voice of Zodiac, as darkness comes back into the land, as awful as that sounds, then it does create a different atmosphere and a different vibe.
Yeah, I mean, you say as bad as that sounds and stuff, but I think we've got to look past that light good, dark bad thing. It's a matter of this is the only way for things to be stable.
Yeah, exactly. And the last question, and like we said earlier, it did kind of seem to come out of nowhere. Really, it was one of those questions that I just don't understand why it was in this interview and not in a different interview, but it may have just been that this was something that did get asked. So players visiting other worlds will be able to purchase things off the market board. Obviously, this could have a great impact on the player economy of each world. What factors led to this decision? So I would have thought that this might have been a question that should have been in an interview that they did for patch 4.57, but whether or not they didn't have one and they just put it in here just to get that question asked. So I do think the market boards will be affected by this new change. However, I feel this is only being brought up because there was this wall between each of the worlds. Final Fantasy 14 continues to evolve, and these barriers between worlds are starting to fade. We may have seen some drastic fluctuations on the market boards at the onset of the world visit system, but it will eventually settle down and we will enter the post-world visit system economy. In other words, the in-game economy and competition surrounding that will also evolve into something new. What was a closed market until now will open up to all players within the same data center, and everyone is able to play a competitor. However, from a bird's eye view, this simply translates to an expansion of the market. We will see an increase in both supply and demand, as well as competitors in the market, nothing more. The only difference is what used to be separated per world is now per data center. We thought much less of this immediate impact and instead thought of this as an evolution into a new market and settled with expanding the current in-game market as is.
Right, so I agree that after a significant amount of time, then things probably will balance themselves out.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But I think the bigger problem, and this was brought up in a video I've watched recently, from Work to Game, is this the ever-growing population of botters, especially when you see them on the market board. Because when it says like more competitors and stuff, you can't compete with the botters on some things.
No, you cannot.
I mean, fortunately, it's more of the easier to obtain stuff, obviously, because there's so much a bot can do. But still, it's taken away a lot of market options for a lot of people that just don't get that much time on there.
No, I think it's two things. It's two good things in my opinion. One, it will help people buy equipment that might have been out of reach because the more options that you have to buy. So when it comes to sort of like the crafted gear, the cost of the materials, because there's going to be more availability, is going to go down. Assuming people want to go to different worlds to try and find the best price. There was a website called MOG Board,
yeah,
that was being used to track the cost of items on different servers, on different worlds. However, that has now been taken down. One of the things I will point out, Square Enix did stop that from happening. I've got a feeling that's because they're going to bring their own version of that out.
Yeah, I think it's quite a good tool to have.
Yeah, so that would have been something that people can use, because if the cost of the raw materials is lower, the cost of the actual item that those raw materials are used to make becomes lower.
Yeah.
It's just natural real world economics.
Yeah.
If your cost of the raw materials are low, the cost of your product is going to be low. And if the cost of the product is lower, then the fact that more people will be able to buy it, which means more people will want the raw materials, which will mean that those prices can fluctuate up and down, because if people are wanting the raw materials but there's not many to go about, the price is going to be high. If there's a lot, the price is going to be low. So it is going to mimic real world economics. However, it is a game at the end of the day, and I think that bringing the prices down is more beneficial than putting in a system where prices can fluctuate.
Yeah, it becomes more open to everybody that can't make hundreds and millions of gil and just spend on what they want.
Yeah. I mean, I'm at 1.2 mil. I've been toying with the idea of buying a Black Mage level 73, 80 and upgrading to a 90 weapon. Decided not to, because literally I'm 8 weeks out from Shadowbringers. If I can cap everything by Shadowbringers, it means I'll be able to go out and buy one near enough as soon as Shadowbringers pops anyway for a level 400 weapon.
Yeah.
Not entirely difficult.
No, and yeah, that goes back to the point. Is it worth doing really difficult things to get the better weapon when it's just going to be replaced very soon anyway?
Not at the minute. The only things I would suggest people do is, if you really don't want to go and cap all your tomes and you feel that you're competent doing it, do things like Sivir. You can get your 395 weapon quite easily now, I believe. It's not a difficult fight. I haven't done it, but I have kept up to speed with sort of like people who have. 1 drop or 10 tokens is all it'll take. So if you've got 6 or 7 jobs, 70 runs sounds like a lot, but in the grand scheme of things, if you're that bothered about getting gear for 7 or 8 jobs, it's probably not.
And if you got a lot of money, just buy the Rakasha stuff.
Yeah. Or, like we say, cap everything, wait for Shadowbringers, and then you can buy everything at a lot cheaper price.
There is literally no rush.
No, there isn't. So that's the Game Escape interview, and then the second interview went up on Polygon, which is a website I've never even heard of.
So I used to use it.
I'll be perfectly aware. I'll be perfectly honest. I've never even heard of this. I was just scrolling through my Twitter this morning, and it popped up, so I sent you the link straight away.
Yeah.
And it was actually, I feel, a bit of a more interesting interview.
Yeah. It's definitely a little bit more interesting than the previous one. There were some bits that made you think in the other one, but that's pretty much it. There wasn't too much new.
Yeah. So we'll kind of do the same. So I'll read the question and the answer, and then we'll discuss it from there. So now that Stormblood is finally over, did you learn anything about the player base over the course of the expansion? Did they react to reveals and new mechanics the way you expected to? So our players have already greatly surpassed our expectations in many ways. They have taken the world of Final Fantasy XIV in as something that is both perpetual and natural. The reason I say it in this way is that players from around the world not only play the content we create, but also organise events and roleplay on their own. One could say that many are taking residence in the world of Final Fantasy XIV, which is changing what we need to provide. It is no longer just about creating content, but also simply providing a space to play within. I believe this is both a very strong and positive outcome for an MMORPG. The reaction towards battle mechanics and other specifics are a very small factor in comparison to this bigger picture. So just a quick caveat about this. This was done over email with Polygon and Naoki Yoshida, and it was done via a translator, which I'm probably going to guess is Koji. So that first question, I like the fact that Yoshi P has turned around and said that this isn't just an MMORPG for people to clear content anymore. People are being a lot more immersed in the world.
Yeah, I mean, I was listening to a podcast recently from Itangshi Hills.
Right.
And they were talking about a Blitzball event they do on Balmung.
Right.
And that just goes into like the whole roleplay thing. I mean, obviously there's no Blitzball in game, but they've done this thing where teams compete, but they do it across Final Fantasy XIV. So I think that's kind of the things that he's getting at there, is like more people are doing that kind of thing and creating their own bits.
Yeah, and it is credit to the 14 community. I mean, the 14 community, there are times it takes a bashing, much like any MMORPG community takes a bashing when it comes to certain things. So, attitudes, way that people speak to people, the perceived perception of the type of player. The player base does take a bashing from certain areas. Mm-hmm. However, one of the areas it doesn't take a bashing from is in terms of how it is with itself. So the community is very much help each other. There's not that much toxicity happens in the community as far as I can see, especially compared to like MMORPGs that we have played in the past. DCUO is the main one. The toxicity in that has died down quite a lot.
It's because not many people play it.
Quite possibly. But that was very, very toxic for a prolonged period of time.
Especially like, I just remember I'm not gonna, but I remember certain names that always sprung up, and it was always a really bad, like, potty mouth, always trash talking, but not in like a competitive trash talking way. They were just being nasty for the sake of being nasty.
Yeah, they were being the 14-year-old child or the 40-year-old lives in mum's basement. They weren't being a constructive.
Yeah, it wasn't even. It's just, I'm bored, so I'm just gonna make someone angry. It's like, well done.
But I think the big thing that to take away from that is the fact that Yoshi P sees our player base not as a content centric player base, but as a world player base and a world centric player base.
Yeah, I guess so.
So the next question ties in with patch 4.1. I'm not too sure whether or not the question's right because I haven't played patch 4.1 for a while. But whatever happened to Dora? She ran off to take care of Ifrit, and we never saw her again. Is there a chance we might get more of her in the future? Now, I've mentioned this in my Stormblood review, so I haven't really went much detail in there, but I have said that she has disappeared off. She kind of Thanos'd. She there one minute, not there the next. But I can't remember her going away and taking care of Ifrit.
That doesn't ring a bell to me. Obviously, it's true, I guess, because
I know she goes and fights Lakshmi. She helps us fight Lakshmi in the Alamigo throne room.
I really can't remember. It's so frustrating.
Yeah, I can't either.
Is this going to be one of those Mandela effect things? It's like everyone remembers her doing something else.
I honestly cannot remember.
I remember, like you said, I remember her helping us with Lakshmi because that bit was quite poignant.
Yeah.
And emotional in terms of like her story. And then I kind of forget. It just my memory just goes blank with it.
Yeah, so I'm just googling things like
as you all know, we do quite regularly.
Yeah, right. All the way down to the bottom, just somebody's typed up all of the cutscenes.
Wow. It's dedication or boredom.
Let's have a look here.
Really liked Fordola, though. I think she was a really good character.
She was a really, really good character.
You really hated her to start with, and then you felt sorry for her.
Right, there we are. So Lakshmi comes, Lise vaults over spear and involved Fordola. Burning shields intercepts every spear. Raban breaks all the guards. Lakshmi teleports in between the escapees and the door. Blah, 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 blah.
So I don't understand him either, guys.
Lease limit breaks all over Lakshmi's face.
That sounds terrible. Oh, that's my childish ways. Limit
With the
break.
primal threat gone, Alpha and the Alamigo leaders re-enter the room. Raganfrid stops down seeing Fordola. Seven hurls at her, the butcher, stares at Fordola. She stares back, then is hit with several echo flashbacks. She stops, turns away, single tear drops from Fodor's eye, then she strides out the room.
Which is what I remember.
Yeah. We can't ignore what's happening right now. We have to show people a better way of vengeance, or we risk giving birth to a new generation. Yeah, pretty much. She just goes back to her
cell.
Yeah.
She even says, "Take me back to my cell." I'm sure she does.
Yeah, that's... Yeah. Like, there's nothing else happens after that. No. So she ran off to take care of Lakshmi and help us, but then again we never saw her, just she went back to her cell. So Naoki Ishio's response was, unfortunately now is still not the time to talk about Fodola's future. She is a tragic character who has lived in ill-fated destiny and made into a resonant. Eventually there may come a time to depict what happened to her, but now is not yet the time. However, I don't think we will ever forget her. So we have touched on her and we have said she's a great character, and I would love to see more Fordola.
Yeah.
I feel, and I talked about this in my review, which will be going up shortly. And I thought I was in the majority, but I've got a feeling I may actually be in the minority in terms of I feel that the two of the not the main antagonist, but the two secondary antagonists in Stormblood, in Fordola and Yotsuyu, were much more interesting than the main antagonist in terms of Xenos.
Yeah, I think they had for him it was just kind of like, I just want to fight the strongest people. That was pretty much it. It got more interesting with him with Eledibus.
Yeah, as he's been taken over by an Ascian, he has become much more interesting. But in Stormblood itself, in 4.0 itself, I felt that Fordola and Yotsuyu were much more interesting antagonists compared to Xenos.
They had more substance.
They did. So the next question was, the raid bosses for 2.0 and 3.0 introduced new mechanics that kept you on your toes for most of the battle, but the bosses in the 4.0 raids like Kefka and Final Omega often use mechanics in the second half of a fight that were present or similar to those in the first. Will the Eden raid in 5.0 be more similar in design to the earlier raids or closer to 4.0 raids? So we don't necessarily create raids that fall under some kind of overarching rule set we have in place. It is actually based more so on the preference of the content designer who is in charge of creating each of these raids. The examples you provided, Kefka and Final Omega, were handled by the same person, so you might see some similarities between them. One thing that we do need to be mindful of is the available resources for creating the content, such as graphics and programming. A very skillful content designer may be able to come up with new mechanics while keeping resource costs low, simply by finding an interesting way to reincorporate a previously used mechanic. We shall see how Eden pans out. That said, the staff who worked on Kefka and Final Omega are part of the production team too.
Yeah, I can't talk too much because I haven't even finished the Omega stuff. So
no, and I'll be perfectly honest. I haven't touched the top end of Savage, so I haven't touched Kefka or Omega Savage. However, I do know what they're saying. So in X-Death, Kefka, and Final Omega, you basically fight the normal fight first. So you fight X-Death, Kefka, or Omega male and female. And then once you've defeated them, a cutscene plays, and you then fight in terms of Neo X-Death, Fallen Kefka, I think it is, or Angel Kefka, basically an angelic version of Kefka, and then Final Omega, Omega's final form. And in Kefka and Final Omega, what they have done is they have used the same mechanics from the first part of the fight, where you fight as normal Kefka and normal Omega male-female, but they do put a slight twist on them. Or they do them back to back, and they do them slightly differently.
Yeah.
Whereas in 2.0 and 3.0, you never had that evolution of a boss. You never had Bahamut becoming Golden Bahamut. You never had Alexander becoming so on and so forth. I mean, you had Brute Justice become Winged Justice, but it kind of still felt like the same fight because they didn't change. They changed, but they also changed their skill set.
Yeah.
And so they also changed some of the mechanics. So I do understand what they're saying on both sides. I much prefer the way that they've done it this way.
So, I mean, obviously I'm not a big raider. So with the say we'll take Heaven's Ward for instance, with the 3.0 stuff, they changed their movesets as well as their appearance. Yes. Is that what they're getting at? And the new ones, they changed, but they didn't change their movesets?
They didn't change everything, no.
Right, okay. I don't see why that's such a big deal, to be honest. But
I think it's just the fact that they kind of created this new boss mechanic. So we've now kind of got 5 Savage fights in 4 raids.
Right, okay.
And why is it that kind of 5th Savage fight still uses basically the same mechanics from the 4th one, but with slight tweaks, as opposed to having brand new, unique mechanics?
Well, I suppose that's because it's quite difficult to do when you've already covered. It's like how many...
Well, I don't even think it's that, but what they're saying is that a skillful content designer comes up with new mechanics while keeping the resource costs low. Yeah. So if you have a mechanic where you have to have 4 people go to different corners of the room, while the other 4 do certain things, and those 4 in the corners all have markers and they need to be diagonally opposite one another, otherwise something bad happens, and so on and so forth. If that is a mechanic in part 1, if you then have another mechanic in part 2 where you've got the same markers, but instead of being diagonally opposite, you've got to be horizontally or vertically opposite, and then the 4 in the middle have to do something slightly different, that's using the same
mechanic
resources, but slightly twisting the mechanic. Whereas if you have that in part 1 and then have something completely different in part 2 in terms of using new markers, new mechanics, new resources, it's going to create additional work.
Yeah. I get it.
So the next one, so Final Fantasy XIV has a lot of cool outfits and accessories. I'm sure Shadowbringers is going to bring about even more. Is there any plan to expand the glamour system used to accommodate access or more items, or even add slots to the dresser? Currently, the dressers are about 200, I think. Will we ever be getting a glamour dresser furniture item for our homes? Players really love glamour, and the common joke in Final Fantasy XIV is glamour is the real endgame. So the amount you can store in the glamour dresser will be doubled from the original 200 to 400, and the number of plates available will also be increased. These updates will come with the launch of Shadowbringers, but will continue to update the glamour systems in the future as well.
Wow, that's quite a big jump, 200 to 400.
It is.
Just double
massive increase.
I was expecting maybe 50 to 100 more, not that much.
But I go back to, I think it might have been the EU FanFest.
Yeah.
And they did the live letter, and they did like a little straw poll.
Right.
With the audience, and asked what the audience wanted. And I'm sure one of the options was more glamour plates.
Right, okay.
So they might have actually listened to the EU audience.
No, that'd be silly. Of course they wouldn't. Well, obviously they have, if that's the case.
Yeah. I'll be honest, I don't really use that much glamour. However, having more space to put stuff.
I don't even know how many there is at the minute in the glamour. Is it
200?
No, I mean the plates. 10 plates.
10, yeah.
So if they did enough plates to fit every job or craft or a gatherer.
Well, this is the problem. So the plates. Oh no, just that's all right. Ignore me. Just there have been times when I've put plates on glamour stuff and it hasn't worked properly. But it does seem to be working a lot better now. I remember just my machinist has a glamour, and then my bard has a separate glamour, but they both use the same items.
Oh right, okay.
One thing I will say is, like, people were talking about this on Reddit. Just obviously this interview came out and people were talking about it on Reddit, and somebody pointed out, and it's probably going to be the only time I ever actually say this in terms of this game doing something better than Final Fantasy XIV. And that's DCUO. I think their glamour system is
hands down it's better. Hands down it's the best I've ever played on an MMO.
Yeah. For those who don't know, DC Universe Online, it's based on DC Comics. In there, once you get a piece of gear that has a style, you retain that style whether you've got that piece of gear or not. So you will always be able to change to that style on that character.
And regardless of what power or role you play.
Yes. Also, you will have... you've got alts, so people do play alts, just you only have one power on each character, and you can unlock the styles on alts. It does cost badges that you get either as a subscriber or with real world money, but it is an option there as well. And the other side of it as well is in order to change your colour, you don't need a dye, because their colours are all based on hex codes.
Yeah.
So you can actually just type in the hex code for a certain colour and it will put in that colour for you.
Yeah, and it's like you can also change the colour of specific... Is it that one?
So there's...
Yeah, so you can change like up to 3 colours on the same piece.
Yeah.
So
on the same piece of equipment. Just it used to be in that game where you had 3 colours, and each colour could only be changed, and each piece of armour had a specific colour attached to it. But now you can change the colour on each individual piece, and there's actually a 4th colour there now as well.
Yeah. So that's a lot of options.
Yeah. The glamour system is much better on DC than it is in Final Fantasy XIV. It's probably the only thing it does better than 14.
I don't know. I quite like the combat in DC. It felt.
I think it's much quicker, but I think it's much different. I think it's a completely different.
Oh yeah, of course.
Style.
But
and the last thing that they ask Yoshi P is it's a fun one. Who would you rather take on in a battle, Godbird or Julian? This is a tough one. However, I still have a feeling I can talk things out with Godbert. No matter who I choose, I don't feel like I could win. But the person I feel I could perhaps become friends with afterwards would be Godbert. Probably. No matter what era, no matter the world, mothers are always strong.
Oh, I think that's nice.
Who would you pick?
If I had to, I'm not messing with Julianne.
Yeah, same.
Not at all.
Godbert. I'd turn my back on him, let him suplex us once, and that'd be me done.
Yeah. I wouldn't even try and talk it out. I wouldn't try and outrun him. I wouldn't try anything. Seeing what I've seen, it's just like, if you've got a problem with me, you're going to do it anyway, so just get it over with. I mean, if you want to ask anyone, just one, ask Hildebrand, because he'll let you know, and two, ask Gilgamesh, because he gets twatted with a frying pan, I'm quite sure, or a skillet or something.
He gets hit with everything.
Yeah. Oh, Greg. I love Greg.
Oh, bless him. Yeah, and they're the two interviews. So, like we say, thankfully, it's actually gave us something to talk about today.
Yeah.
Just I think we were really, really struggling when it comes to content for this week's show.
It's difficult because when we don't have stuff like this that we can touch upon, we can only really then go into our personal interaction with Final Fantasy XIV, and that only really becomes interesting to a certain people.
And that would only, like, my experience of Final Fantasy XIV recently has been leveling roulettes on my Black Mage and Eureka. That's a very boring subset of game. Subset of content.
I've done quite a lot in terms of, I've got my miner and my botanist to 70, and I'm working on getting the scripts, and I've been doing new things to me, such as like the custom deliveries and things like that, which is quite interesting in itself, and like the process of leveling up crafters as well now, which with gatherers and crafters is completely different. The only things that I'd say is pretty much the same are the leaves, but then the leaves for crafting can be a right pain.
Yeah, I've never really done crafting. I usually use Beast Tribe, so I've just literally been doing. When I was leveling my crafters up, I think I've got my culinary into 37, my carpenter to 50. I was leveling other things. I was just doing the Ixaly dailies.
Yeah, see, I've been doing that. I'm making sure I'm getting the Ixaly dailies done. And then obviously you can move on to the Moogles, and is it the Namazu? Are the snake people, what are they called? I can't remember. The Ananta. Are they a crafting tribe, or are they?
No, they're
not.
They're a battle one. They're a
right,
war,
okay.
magic one.
I'll have to do that because I want the White Griffin.
Yes, it's a very cool mount.
But yeah, so I'm doing those. Obviously, like I said, started Conjurer, been doing Eureka. I have a little bit more time to play than Oisty does.
I'm getting there.
But yeah, you've been on a lot more recently. But I've just found that although I do have more time, and it's not just about time, it's about if you can actually have the patience and be bothered for things. Because I went on early hours of yesterday morning because I couldn't sleep, whatever, and I was trying to level up my Culinarian, and it just got to the point I was just like, you know what, I really can't be bothered to do this. So yeah, it's obviously it's not just about time, it's about what you can be bothered to do, and obviously that's on an individual basis. But I've done quite a lot recently, I feel, even though it doesn't look on the outside like I have. Because when you actually look at my tanks and stuff, I haven't even touched their gear for ages.
But it's one of those things that it's not something that's necessarily going to be a major sticking point come 8 weeks' time. Just we talked yesterday, and you were saying that you are going to be taking Gunbreaker through the main story of Shadowbringer. So
yeah,
I'm guessing the first thing that you're going to be doing on that Friday, Saturday, Sunday of early access will literally be sitting in queues and going through the dungeons as a gunbreaker.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it will depend actually on what the FC's doing, because I do want to
we
keep
can talk
up.
about that later on. Just I've got a thought that I might do something similar. So I might turn around and decide that I'm going to take Dancer, through to 70, and then decide what I want to do from there. So I could do that, or I could level a monk or a ninja or something to 60, and then obviously just piggyback your cubes.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I would offer everyone that opportunity, because we all have been in the situation where we're playing a DPS and we are fed up with Palace of the Dead.
Yeah, definitely.
Because I know I am. I can't even go in there without feeling sick now. More than Eureka.
I didn't even. I think I did one run of Heaven on High with my Black Mage. The rest was leveling roulettes, and I think I did 3 runs of Castrum Urbana at the end.
Yeah.
I was on level 69, so I just did 3 runs of that to get to level 70.
Yeah. Yeah, which is... if I had the choice, I'd choose dungeons over that any day.
Yeah, definitely. It's just much easier, and I find it, especially when you're doing casters, it's much easier to feel like you're doing something in dungeons, because the enemies in Heaven on High and Palace of the Dead...
Oh, especially early on.
Sorry?
Early on, definitely. You cast something and they're already dead.
Even later on, if you've got 2 other DPS and a tank with you,
yeah,
it's likely that the enemy's dead before you even get a cast or 2 off.
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyway, that's everything for this week. Like we say, we're gonna have the next show is gonna be on Friday the 24th, which is gonna be after the live letter. So we're hoping that the live letter is gonna be mid-morning-ish. So hopefully 9, 10, 11 o'clock onwards. Then we can do that, watch that, gather all our thoughts, do a show, and then we've literally planned out what we're going to do that weekend in terms of actual video content as well.
Yeah.
So we're going to try and get a lot of video content out for those, especially if we do get the job trailers, which I'm really hoping we will.
We're going to split the workload if that's the case.
Yes, we are. But otherwise, this is going to be the last you hear from us probably until then, unless we get any content out in between. But until then, Mr. Marfy, where can they find you?
Obviously, you can find me on the Good Evening Eorzea YouTube channel. Just to talk about, there's not much from me up there at the minute, as normal. But also, you can find me on Twitter at Mr_Marfy. And that's pretty much it, really. I keep a low profile on social media.
Yeah, I don't use my Twitter that much. You can find me on there at Oisty FFXIV. And if you do want to find me in game, it's Oisty Oisty, and then my surname is TE, because they don't let me have 1-letter surnames. And you can find Mr. Marfy at Mr. Marfy on game as well.
Indeed.
But until next time, thank you for listening.
Yes, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Goodbye.
Bye.